This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com and ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com. My name is Todd DeWald, and it's my job to help construction business owners maximize revenue and eliminate chaos. I've got a great interview with my new friend Devon Tilly, who hosts the Art of Construction podcast. I got to spend some time with him on his podcast not too long ago, and we also got to spend some time together in Vegas at the Builder Show a couple of weeks ago. Here's what you're going to get out of this discussion with Devon. You're going to learn about some of the trends that are coming up when it comes to technology and software. Devon's very connected with a lot of the influencers on those fronts in the construction industry. We're also going to talk about, is the proliferation of technology actually helping or hurting? You're also going to get some advice from Devon if you are a technology aficionado, or if you're on the tech side and you want to help contractors solve their problems and you want to speak their language. You're also going to get some lessons from being inside the material supply chain, which is where Devon has spent a lot of his career. And you're also going to learn about how not to get left behind when it comes to technology. It's a great conversation. Before we get into that, I've got a few things I want to get in your hands and make you aware of. First of all, some of the most common problems that I hear from construction business owners include things like, I don't have anyone to talk to. The only people who understand what I'm going through are my competitors, and I can't talk to them. I am stuck working in my business, and I want to work on my business. I'm so buried in the weeds, so down in the trenches, I can't get any perspective, and I can't get out of the weeds. I can't work on my business because I'm so busy working in it. They're also curious, how are other people doing this? I think I have good ideas, but I would love to have somebody to bounce these ideas off. And that's why I've put together a live 2-day event called The Advance. This is The Advance Spring 2019, April 12th and 13th in sunny and warm Fort Myers, Florida. And here are 7 reasons, very quickly, for you to go to a conference like this. Number 1, you're going to see the big picture. Number 2, you're going to build relationships. You're going to meet people who are doing the exact same thing you are, and you're going to have somebody to talk to after this event is over. Number 3, you don't know what you don't know. You just don't know what you don't know. Number 4, you're going to find out how other people are doing it, how they've already done it, and wouldn't it be nice to avoid some learning curve? Number 5, you're going to get clarity on the real root causes of your problems because you're getting away from your business. You've got some perspective. Number 6, you're going to walk away from an event like this being inspired and recharged to get back after it and take your business to the next level. And number 7, it's not just about information, but at an event like this, you're going to know exactly what you need to focus on so you can take action and get results. To get all the information about the Advance Spring 2019, April 12th and 13th in Fort Myers, Florida, go to ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com/advance. Hurry, the price is going up soon. The hotel rooms are just about to be booked up. I've got a special deal negotiated, but the price for registration is going up soon, and the hotels will be gone, or the hotel rooms will be gone. So go to ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com/advance. Grab your spot before you have to pay several hundred more dollars to get it. Number 2, the next thing I want to get in your hands, which is a free resource that I think every construction business owner should have so that you can run your business from right to left. It is my Revenue Maximizer program. It's the best thing I can do for you if you want to get started and change the way that you're operating your business. If you want to operate your business from right to left, if you want to set targets, execute projects on time, meet revenue goals, get out of cash flow crunch, and turn your business into the business that you started out to have, the best thing I can do for you is to give you the Revenue Maximizer program, and you can get your copy of that program, which comes with training videos, an Excel spreadsheet that the people who go through it are blown away by. I want to give it to you free. You can get that with your free 10-day trial of the Construction Business Accelerator online training program. Go to ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com. Not only will you get the Revenue Maximizer, but you'll get access to the entire program, free for 10 days, including the Contractor Sales Accelerator, which is going to help you generate leads, help you qualify leads, negotiate better, ultimately build a healthy backlog of higher margin work. You're going to get my productivity booster, my project execution formula, the mindset upgrade. It's like Netflix for construction business owners. If you haven't signed up for it, you need to do it before this deal goes away. Go to constructionbusinessaccelerator.com. Get your free 10-day trial. And lastly, if you want to jump on the phone with me, if you own a construction business, I would love to find out how I can help you, point you to some of the resources I've got, get you moving in the right direction. And the best way to do that is for us to get on the phone. I'm offering a free strategy call for construction business owners, and you can go schedule your strategy call over at constructionleadingedge.com/call. And if you don't remember any of those links, if you're driving, you're at the gym, do this. Send me a text, 859-667-2015. Tell me what you're looking for. I'll get that stuff in your hands. So now, without further ado, let's get to this conversation with Devon Tilly from The Art of Construction. All right, Devon, thanks for being on the podcast. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
You bet. I've been looking forward to this. I've been tracking you for quite a while now. You also have a podcast in the construction space, and you've been at this for a while, so I'm sure we could commiserate about that. But that wouldn't necessarily be so helpful for the audience. So here's where I'd like to start. What are some of the trends that you're seeing out there that maybe are 12 months out, 5 years out, but are important for contractors to be aware of so they know what's coming?
Yeah, great question. We're actually putting a lot of conversation about that with my Art of Construction team, and we've been wrestling with a lot of terms or figuring that out. But it's kind of the big thing on the trends is that there's major gaps in the new age tools and the old age execution. So it's really finding those gaps in those tools of this big paradigm shift. There's a lot of people that I've always done it this way out there, and that I believe in the next correction, or if there's no correction, or all the things that are happening out there, technology is a big part of that paradigm shift of there is an app for that. The problem is that people calling the shots would say there's not an app for that.
Yeah, so there's this divide between, and there's this growing group of technology providers who, in my experience, don't have a lot of boots on the ground experience, and you have this group of actual builders who have the boots on the ground experience, but there's not much overlap there. And I talk to folks periodically who have a piece of software and then they run their idea past me, and there's just a disconnect. So what do you think? What's the solution to that? Because there are big problems that need to be solved. You have contractors who have big problems to be solved. There are technology companies that are growing. There are VC firms who are throwing money to grow technology for construction. But in my experience, I don't see a lot of problems being solved. In fact, I see let me try that again. I see the proliferation of technology in some cases having a negative impact on efficiency and productivity. So what do you think? What do we need to do to help us?
Yeah, no doubt. The reality is you have to take the plunge because it's going to happen. But what I've found when I meet with all these amazing folks out there, I find that either they understand technology or they understand construction. It's pretty rare that they understand both. And in reality, I don't know if you could, because the bandwidth is just, construction is hard and technology is changing so fast. So to put those two together, for us to have as we say on my podcast, a fireside chat that's global and timeless, that's really hard to do there's so much changing happening out there. So, we try to just simplify that in a world that's really not that simple, because it's two very different personalities, and putting those two together. So that's really, I think, a big paradigm shift that we all have to pay attention to, is to, what could help your business instead of be noise. There's so much noise out there right now.
So let's talk to both camps on either side of the divide. There's the technology side. What advice would you give the folks in the technology side who are not builders, who want to have better conversations and solve more problems for the builders?
Great question. And I think that's the key to cracking this code is being open and honest with each other and working together. And I see it's like a manufacturer will want to go right to their consumer brand or the segment they're trying to attract. And there's some very, very important people in the middle, the supply chain, the engineers, the architects. And so I think where you're focusing on what segment, what is that critical path or the process that your platform can really guide through to add value. And you really, if you're going to add value, you got to align the cooks in the kitchen properly. In the construction arena, I like to call the art of construction.
Yeah. So you're in the building materials supply chain, right? And I'm always looking for how has this nut been cracked before? How has somebody else solved this problem? So the building material supply chain is trying to solve problems for contractors as well. They've been at it a lot longer than software companies have. Are there any lessons or any principles that you've seen used in the material supply chain that could or should be applied to the software and technology side?
I think the best lessons learned there with that, that's a good way to attack it, is to find the pain and fix it. I think we need to look outside of the mainstay construction. It's like, I'd ask you back, the question is, imagine your life today without Wi-Fi. Well, in reality, that's actually pretty much still the construction arena job site. Mm-hmm. And so you look at really cool companies like DeWalt that are, I was at Autodesk University talking with the head of their innovation, and I spent 2 whole days there just talking with people, learning about what their value proposition, where they're going. And DeWalt's saying, well, we're a company, a connectivity company. So they're working on Wi-Fi devices and things that each person will have, in their pocket. So these big job sites that it'd be great if your iPad could tell you what's going to be there. But if you get into the mechanical room, probably the most important room on the job site, and you don't get Wi-Fi and now it doesn't work, that whole platform now doesn't work. And I think that's the key of this technology versus, the contractor. It's that, the laser level versus the old school Doppler. It's the, a corded drill versus a corded drill, like the evolution of Wi-Fi. And you look at a company like Uber or Amazon, like they changed the taxi industry. That's the paradigm shift we're under. There just hasn't been that one. You have big companies like Autodesk are driving the bus, but there isn't one thing in construction because it's so much bigger than just solving a transportation need.
Yeah. And that's interesting. You bring that term up. I read a story recently about, and maybe this is a good case study for people in the technology or problem solving business. Back in the late 1800s, it was all horse and buggy. That's how transportation was accomplished. And in a part of New York, I forget the name of the city, but there was this town that was known as a buggy whip manufacturer. There were 40 buggy whip manufacturers in this town. Buggy whips were used by carriage drivers to whip the horses that pulled the buggies. So with the advent of the automobile, as you can imagine, horses and buggies went away. Therefore, there was no need for buggy whips, and 39 out of those 40 buggy whip manufacturers went out of business very quickly, and only one of those survived today, and it's doing something with buggy whips, but it's more decorative and more recreational. And I read a case study on that, and one thing that stood out to me was that the buggy whip manufacturers should have seen themselves in the personal transportation business instead of being buggy whip manufacturers. They should have been more problem-oriented than product-oriented. And I talk to a lot of people in software, or people who have ideas for software, and they're in love with their product. They're in love with their idea. And that's a great way to get disrupted. And actually, it's a great way to be irrelevant, because if you're in love with your idea, you're assuming that somebody has a need for your idea, but my advice is go fall in love with problems, fall in love with customers, and then they'll tell you about the problems that they can solve. So now let's talk about the builders out there. What would you say to them when it comes to technology so that they don't get disrupted and don't get left behind?
Yeah, this is where the Tasmanian Devon comes out, where I'm sometimes a micro-influencer and most of the times a disruptor. So, I'm 38 years old and I've been in this my whole career, and I've always been that technology guy, and I've always kind of been against the status quo. And a lot of the people that are still calling the shots are totally confused and scared of all these technologies. And the bigger the company they are, the more they are resistant to change. So they continue to fall in love with their product and the 2% paradigm shift, and it keeps going year after year after year. But those people are not getting any younger that are calling the shots. So I believe there's this big, so the ones that want to stay young and keep moving forward with technology, the ones that will adopt. But the thing is I tell people, don't expect what you don't inspect, because there's no software out there that's going to do everything for you. In today's world, you have to find different platforms to work with your business. And that's what makes your business unique and why you're in business. If you're just a horse whip and buggy selling a product, it's just a matter of time until you're not selling the horse whip and buggies. That's the reality, I think, what we're talking about. So that's the hard look yourself in the mirror and adopting change and welcoming change, to say, I think that's where in the construction industry there's a lot of change coming, and the ones that welcome it are really going to thrive.
Yep. Good advice. So now let's pause and let's talk about what you do. You've got a podcast, you've got several things going on, but just tell people a little bit about who you are, your background, and what you're up to these days.
Cool. Well, I got a college degree, moved to Colorado in marketing, and I've just always loved business and marketing. And my whole career, my stepfather that raised me ended up being my boss's boss in the corporate world, and he actually left that and actually runs one of my locations in Colorado. And through that process in the corporate world, I was just always fascinated with building materials and the more complicated building materials. So windows and doors I've always had a passion for. So I own a company in Colorado called Mountain View Window and Door. And that was really 4 years ago, before podcasting was cool. I wanted to do something different and give back to all the awesome people that have given to me so much. So I started this podcast, The Art of Construction, that has branched off to now, I like to say, I have my global megaphone guiding awesome fireside chats, but it feeds down to keeping my boots on the ground by owning a window and door company in Colorado that we supply and install windows and doors in homes. And then now we're taking the technology, or what we call our test kitchens of your typical showroom or design center. We're mixing that all together, where I did a lot of work and partnered with a company called Proximity, where we took the design center, the traditional showroom, and co-working and put that all together. So locally, we're working on our experience centers where we're taking these technology platforms and using that. So I think it's a unique platform where we have, local boots on the ground, where we're building communities using technology and handshakes. And then we have a regional brand that supplies windows and doors, and then globally, the Art of Construction podcast.
Interesting. Got a lot of stuff going on there. So
yeah,
I'm sure you're busy. So I appreciate you being on the podcast and sharing. So you're in the building material business. What are some of the trends that are coming, and specific to windows and doors? What are some things that those folks listening in the residential industry need to know about, whether they are problems that have been identified, new trends that are coming? What do they need to do to be ahead of the curve?
All levels need to, when I heard you, one of the buzzwords is BIM. BIM stands for Building Informational Modeling. And the thing I've been challenging people back is when they really get into their product and pitch about whether it's a window or a deck or a plumbing fixture that they're trying to make a BIM model and sell that model, I say, stop. BIM is not a product. It's part of the process. And so that's the part we really have to look at collaboratively and say, the art of the construction is helping people create a house, their home, or a development to, the best experience. And so those experiences are about us taking the product and not being all about the product and pitch, but saying, how do I fit into the process? And that's the part that's hard, is that now you have to really be open and honest and collaborative and say, well, how does that work when all's at the end of the day, what's in it for me? That's what's in it for me is you're turning over whatever hand that you're in, that you're turning over the right part of the construction process.
Gotcha. But specific to the materials, doors and windows, are you seeing any trends in materials that builders need to be aware of?
Yes. Bigger is better in the contemporary design. So everything is all about, architects just want the glass house. So drawing, it's just all about indoor, outdoor living in glass. Well, inside and outside have very different variables in structure and engineering and design pressure and all those things. You really need to find trusted partners that can handle because architects, it's impossible to know them everything about everything, So when it comes to windows and doors, you really need to have specialists, in my point of view, to help be trusted advisors in those designs. So they keep getting bigger. So I've been partnering with a company called SmartLift. So specialty tools to move these specialty massive products is a key component in the critical path of constructing these big modern designs.
In your experience with architects and designers who are in some cases a bit of an enigma, a bit of a mystery to builders, what are some tips, maybe one or two tips you would give builders when interacting with architects so that they can communicate more effectively with them?
Yeah, it's a big thing of the psychology. When I started into this business, I did not align with architects well at all, because I'm an expressive, I'm a doer, I'm a go after it, which is a lot of contractors. They're much more leader, they're get stuff done type mentality guys, where architects are much more of a design approach, think through it methodically type. That's where they're cut from. So the big advice I tell people when I'm training trusted advisor, people that are trying to relate with architects, is say, don't be you, be them. And so that's the whole profiling and versatile selling and disc profiling. But the term that I love when I talk architecture is really understand the architects and their client to help them spec to secure their vision. And those words really dial in, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to spec to cover their ass. They're trying to spec to draw a picture so that everybody can build from it and make everybody happy. And they have a tough job. It's a thankless job to put something down that appeases everybody, because you're not going to appease everybody. So be the one to have each other's back, is both for the architect to say, work with the building industry to say, can this be built this way? And vice versa for the contractors, work with the architects to make sure you're understanding what can and cannot do to spec to secure their vision. And I think that's key on a good partnership between an architect and a contractor.
Yeah, that's great advice. Understand they're coming from a different place, whereas we contractors are about scope, schedule, budget, deliverables, all of which come from a different side of the brain than they are, and they're trying to create a great experience. We're looking at, let's get it complete in 6 months, 9 months. They're looking at what's it going to be like in 20 years. They have a different perspective, which is very important.
And we need to look at that we have to look at that as contractors and doers, to say, we don't want to just build crap. Like, look yourself in the mirror and say, I want to do something that everybody around me is proud of, not just get it done and move on to the next job. Because if you have that mentality, you're going to go back to the last job dealing with the problems as well. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I think in a lot of cases, we tend to think our perspective is right and everybody else is wrong. But in the case of working with designers, there's a lot we can take away from their perspective. And it's not just about get to completion and then move on and hope that everything holds up until the end of your warranty period. It would be wise to take a 20 or 50 year look at what we're doing and take some of that. They can probably take some of the contractor mentality, but we can certainly pick up some of their mentality as well. Any big mistakes that you've seen people make when working with architects that just screw things up?
The biggest thing on all of it is just people out over their skis and basically, extending themselves too far, telling people they can do stuff when they know they can't, just the people that are trying to, the fake it till you make it. Yeah. There's a time that you learn by doing, but that can only get you so far, so both architects and builders, to me, that's the key to a successful career, is having those good strategic partners in those relationships that you have each other's back. So the builder or the architect that is throwing people under the bus, that's only going to last so long.
Yeah. And yeah, I've seen that where there's and maybe it's better now, but when I started in the business 25 years ago, there was an adversarial relationship between the architects and the contractors. And there's probably still some of that around, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's not helpful. And it's pretty old school, actually. So there's definitely a better way to do that. So you mentioned relationships. What advice do you have? Well, let's talk about, first of all, the importance of relationships in business, because some people probably minimize the value. They don't understand how important it is, but how important are relationships in business?
Right now at the peak of the market, it's everything, because the people that had each other's back when things were tough, this industry has huge peaks and valleys, and it's been like that forever. And there's, technology, I see it like the last time, you actually interviewed Audrey Grubesic, who I did as a guest host, and we did 15 episodes on offsite construction, because I was jaded. The last downturn with modular, it really got hit hard. But I think this next time it's going to actually go up. So you have to look at those cycles of the different, how things change, and come in with an open mind. And it's back to having the people. You have to have people's back, and they have to have your back in this industry, because technology and the A blank blank rule can only get you so far. And that's the part of the relationships that's going to get you through. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to make you have fun. And, and that's what, when I was researching you, getting ready for the podcast, I love how you said about how you went down in 2005, but there's a picture of your family. Like, I had the same thing. I hated the corporate world. And it's not it's finding what works for you to make you, what makes you tick. And for me, entrepreneurship is being a leader in an entrepreneur environment. And that's what's great. So if you're in the wrong place, you're not going to build good relationships. So you got to make that work for yourself and good people around you, and make hard decisions sometimes on look yourself in the mirror, or, fire the people that you're not good for, or they're not good for you. You hire slow, fire fast is key stuff. And that's real.
No, that's great advice. And sometimes you gotta fire bosses and find a new place to go.
Right.
And I completely agree. This is
people don't leave companies, they leave bosses.
Yeah. That has been my experience. Definitely. I actually just wrote something about that yesterday. I realized the importance of relationships but way too late in my career, probably about 15 years too late. I used to think, it's all about delivering. It's all about getting the job done. If you've got to step on people and shove it to subcontractors and whatever, burn bridges to get it done, it's all about results. And it was about 2010, I worked with a guy named Greg, and he was this interesting blend of, he had an engineering degree, had done industrial design work, but he was the best networker and best relationship builder that I knew. He was in a position where his company, he sold materials for a company that directly competed with most of his contractor customers. And furthermore, his parent company had fired and been in litigation with several of his customers. So imagine a tougher sell. You get some serious obstacles to get over. But he taught me a lot about the importance of relationships, just being responsive, answering questions, going above and beyond, giving when there was nothing that he could get in return. And that was great advice. In your experience, what are some strategies that, or tips you would give to people about building relationships, or maybe just thinking about what's the mindset? What's a good mindset to have about relationships?
The mindset, sorry about that. The mindset from the front is truly having that go-giver philosophy of not that just always live what's in it for me. And we're all human. That's easier said than done. And, but at the end of the day, for me, it's, you got to decide how you want to grow your business. And for me, it's all about elevate and delegate. So when I say how do you do all this stuff? I don't do all the stuff. I have amazing teams and amazing people that are part of the tribe that are speaking highly of the people around. And that's the world where we're going. Like, social media is a big deal, but not from shoving it down your throat. It's from the grassroots of the people engaged in what you're doing and part of your platform. So I think networking in today there is that country club, get out and hustle. Will always be around, and that will never go away. Like, I tell my team, never lose touch of the handshake, like still write a handwritten thank you card. The things that is kind of lost noise, like don't do everything through email. Like, still do those approaches that emotionally mean something to people. But you have to have people around you help, because you can't do it all yourself. And that's what I've met. A lot of my mentors that have coached me have been like that super salesperson. If you want it done right, do it yourself. And I've taken the opposite approach of how much can I help my key members to go, that domino effect.
Yeah. Good advice. Let's talk about advice for entrepreneurs. There are a lot of folks who listen to this podcast who are somewhere between year -1 and the end of year 2 in their entrepreneurial journey, meaning they're about to start their business. They want to start a business where they've just gotten into it. If you were going to speak, if you had 2 minutes to speak to a group of wannabe entrepreneurs or first-year entrepreneurs, what advice would you give them based on your experience?
You're going to get so much advice, and everybody's going to tell you how you should do stuff. Listen, but do it what works for you. And sometimes good is good enough, and you'll have people that won't tell you that, and you'll have all kinds of different mindset, but you got to keep the ball moving, and the snowball will grow if you constantly keep hustling. And you got to hustle. Starting your own business, it's 10 times harder than you think it's going to be. So if that's what makes you tick, then rock it. But, I've got to meet so many other awesome podcasters. One I'd recommend is The Contractor Fight from Tom Reber. And he talks constantly about, if you don't have the hustle to run a business, then go to work for someone else. So my advice is, there's going to be coaches like you and I that are going to cheer everybody on, but make sure it's right for you, and don't, hire slow, fire fast. Don't beat a dead horse too long. Yeah.
One thing I addressed in a podcast a couple of years ago is the entrepreneurial myth that there's this mythical unicorn creature out there, and it's probably the media's fault, because there's so much. If you pick up any entrepreneurial magazine, Inc. 500 or Inc. magazine or Entrepreneur magazine, they glorify these unicorns like Uber and Airbnb and the guys that have $1 billion plus valuations. And there's a myth out there that if you feel entrepreneurial and if you want to scratch your entrepreneurial itch, the only way to do that is to start your own business. And I think it's completely wrong. There are plenty of
It's completely wrong. It's becoming more and more wrong, because the best ideas are borrowed and executed, and there's less and less new ideas that you can go at. So the mindset, my team is, we talk about the business inside of the business. It's you have to understand the core values and how that company works. There's days sometimes like, man, I wish I could be one of my awesome team members. I say that kind of jokingly, because this is who I am and I love it. But why I say that is that you don't have to, just don't beat a dead horse too long. That's my advice there. I see people try to push and push when it's like, well, what do you like doing the billing at night? If you don't like that stuff, go be a really good architect, project manager, deck builder. there's so much need for plumbers and all these things in our industry. Don't try to be the accountant, the everything else.
Yeah. My advice would be get really clear on why you want to do that. I think people get this idea that they want to start a construction business because they're in love with the craft. Or I know that's where I was in 2002, 2001, 2002. I loved building houses. I watched This Old House. I got all the magazines. I was a self-taught builder, and I thought that I wanted to build homes for a living, and I liked it as a hobby. I built a few houses on the side. It was great, but I quickly realized that building is just a part of the business, and I hated all the other stuff that was necessary to be a builder, and I just didn't know. I wasn't adequately prepared for it. So my advice, if you think you want to be a contractor, make sure that you understand everything that's going to be required of you, and then have a really clear why, have a good solid purpose, because you're going to run into obstacles. You're going to want to quit. And the only way to get through those obstacles is to have a solid why. So let's talk about sales and marketing.
Yeah. And the big keep getting bigger. The big keep getting bigger. So that part of, the David and Goliath, there's only so many Airbnb success stories out there, but the success stories need really good people within these companies. So I guess I'm kind of going on and on about that, but I think it's a really important thing. If you're getting into the business, I'm passionate about, looking at doing your art within the art of construction and being the construction leading edge through a platform. You don't have to go do it all yourself.
Yeah. I think that's a common misconception, is that if I want to do blank, then I have to be blank. And for example, I was talking to one of my coaching clients this morning, and he has created a platform where somebody could come in and just, he's built a platform inside his company where people can come in who really want to build and not have to deal with all the other BS, and make themselves a lot of money and make him a lot of money. And so entrepreneurs, construction business owners, if you are an existing business owner, then my advice to you is figure out how you can attract entrepreneurial people to come work for you. Create a platform where you take all the back office frustration away for them, allow them to really go do what they're great at, and then everybody wins. And then if you are that want-to-be entrepreneur, don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. Don't feel like you have to start from ground zero. Go find somebody who has an existing business. Try to structure a relationship with them, create an opportunity, create something that you don't have to start from ground zero. Go find something that's already started. This is some of the best advice that I ignored at the beginning of my career. The guy told me, Todd, this was a business owner. He said, Todd, don't ever start a construction business on your own. Go find somebody who's been at it for a long time and figure out a way to take over their business, so their business continues and you become a business owner. Did I follow that advice? Absolutely not, because of pride or whatever, but some of the best advice that I never took. All right, let's switch gears and talk about.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I did do that. I worked for 2 other window and door companies before buying out an existing one. And man, I learned so many things that they paid for instead of me having to pay for. I knew how to do it, and I watched them do that this way or that way. And I just made mental notes after mental notes by learning by others.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to learn from your mistakes, but it's better to learn from somebody else's mistakes, and even better to learn from somebody else's successes. Definitely. All right, let's shift gears and talk about sales and marketing. This is something we as an industry are not that great at. I'm a big mindset guy. So what are some of maybe one of the wrong mindsets or mindset issues that contractors have when it comes to selling that they need to unscrew in order to be more successful?
The biggest thing in our industry is there's just way too many heroes, and they go off of, I'm 3rd generation, 300 years experience, all this stuff about how they have this whole legacy of why they're so awesome. And in reality, nobody gives a crap about that. So sales and marketing, you really have to, I'm a big fan of Donald Miller's story brand. You have to be a guide in guiding the experience instead of being the hero pushing it or shoving what you do best down their throats. I see that every day in our industry.
Yeah. And that shows up on websites, brochures, at the front end of presentations, even on large commercial projects. It's all about the builder, and they don't care. They don't care how many trucks you have, how long you've been in business, what your great granddaddy did when he started the business back in 1932. That means nothing to them. So what should they? So the mindset is, all right, it's not about me. It should be about the customer, right? So what are a couple of tips that contractors can use that will make their prospects or their customers listen and get, and ultimately, hopefully, buy from them?
Yeah, I was living proof of that as we had the website with all of those hero slogans, and I went and got help, and get people that are specialized in this. Because when you grow up in construction and you were taught from your dad and your dad was taught, we're a very prideful group, and we grew up by learning by doing, and that's what we know. But when you get outside of our little huddle room of the tailgate talks of construction and get into the world of marketing and technology, the people that are doing that are crushing it because they're setting that experience in a totally different way of guiding the experience instead of this is how we've always done it. That's really what people think of when you sales and market of 300 years. It's okay, you're old, Steve, this is how you've always done it. And as we talked earlier about this paradigm shift of technology and the next wave of buyers, it's a different, you gotta sales and market differently. Now, the part that I see living the art of construction is that you got to be careful about not going too much technology, and because we are this prideful industry and there is a lot of value there. So it's really key. I'm a big fan of a sales-driven marketing experience because our salespeople or our trusted advisors are truly guiding that process. So you have to coach and cross-pollinate that together. Don't hire a marketing agency to tell the sales team how it should be done. I've seen that fail too many times.
Got it. Good advice. Good advice. Well, you've got an audience of construction business owners here from a variety of industries. What's some advice you would give them, or some parting wisdom that you would share with them?
Get help. That's in our industry, we are prideful people that the old mantra of you want done right, do it yourself. And the more help you can get, the better off you're going to be. So find a system to document your critical path or your proven process. For my companies, we use the entrepreneurial operating system. It's been a game changer for us of having someone come in with a fresh set of eyeballs. But make sure you have a system that you lay it out to where you're going to go on this marathon together. Because if you're just constantly trying to bring different sprints and every time there's a problem to go fix it, you're just going to be constantly fixing that old broken down machine. A lot of times you got to break it down and build it from the start. And that's a tough pill to swallow for us. Yeah, no, that's great advice. So get help. You don't have to do it alone. And then take the long view, look at the entire machine. And I've been guilty of that, of looking at, well, this one thing isn't working well, so I'm going to go put it together with bubble gum and matchsticks. And then you do that long enough and you've got a system that's just complete crap. And you're going to end up starting from scratch anyway when you don't want to. So that's good advice. Look at the whole thing and build it right. Build it right from the ground up would be great advice. As you start, build it from the ground up. What do you want it to look like in 10 years? And that goes for your systems and your organization. So, well, great stuff, Devon. I appreciate you taking the time to be on here. If people want to connect with you, let's start with your podcast. Where can people go to listen to your podcast? And then if they want to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to do that? Yeah, the website, we do custom show notes on every show we do, and then the website is theaoc.us is the website, and then social media. And, I'm passionate about connecting and meeting cool new people and sharing each other's stories. I truly appreciate you having me on your show, because I really feel that all of us podcasters coming together is really what's going to drive this change in a good way and help educating us all together. So I'm big on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, and Devon Tilly is me, DevonTilly, and you'll see all my platforms and companies there.
Sounds great. Devon, thanks again for being on here, man. This was a great conversation, and I appreciate everything you're doing for the industry, and thank you for taking the time to be on here.
Same with you. We'll have to have you on our show.
All right, there you go. Make sure and go listen to the Art of Construction podcast. Lots and lots of good stuff out there. Devon is a very generous guy. He is all about connecting the dots, and he's the real deal. So go check out and subscribe to his podcast. Make sure you go grab your spot for the Advance Spring 2019 in Fort Myers, Florida. It's on April 12th and 13th. The price is going up in a few days. The hotel rooms will be gone soon. So if you're thinking about it, you need to take action. You can grab your spot at constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/advance and go grab your copy of the Revenue Maximizer at constructionbusinessaccelerator.com. And lastly, if you want to get on the phone with me, you can schedule your free strategy session at constructionleadingedge.com/call. Thanks for the ratings and the reviews. I appreciate the emails. If you enjoy the podcast, if you could take about 60 seconds, maybe 120 seconds, go to the podcast player of your choice, leave a rating, leave a review. That helps get the word out there. And that is it for this one. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.